don't get me wrong, Kinsey. I'm not putting up a defense of the Sussexes. Everything that happens to them, they've brought upon themselves.
Hi, all. Kinsey Schofield here. Welcome to Royally Unfiltered, the show that takes you behind palace gates like never before. Helping me tackle the headlines this week is former Sun's royal editor Charles Ray and royal historian Rafe Heydel-Mankoo. Thanks so much for being here. Rafe, we were telling you how handsome we thought you were before I started recording. Does that make you blush?
Indeed, I'm blushing from cheek to cheek.
Well,
My
let's.
beard hides it all, but you can't see.
I know, I love it. Let's talk about some positive news. Let's start the show with almost a sweet story. Actually, I just saw a video of President Trump talking to I don't know exactly. I know he's talking to the media, but he's at a conference table and he's telling everyone the king is coming, the king is coming, because there are questions surrounding his April visit. However, the Trump administration, they are positive despite the chaos happening in the United States and in the White House that King Charles is committed to his visit. I'll ask you about that in a second. But I also wanted to ask you about this news story that's circulating. It's from a book called The Queen and Her Presidents, The Hidden Hand That Shaped History. And this is by Susan Page. Trump asked the Queen, according to her book, who her favorite president was or who her favorite MP was as well. And she said they were all excellent. She was like, no, that one was good too. They're all very good. And Trump said, I said to myself, how genius is that? I couldn't get her to say a bad thing about anybody. She was amazing, actually, and not for any reason other than I don't think she wanted to create controversy. It was unnecessary. For Trump, she prompted a rare moment of self-reflection, the author wrote. I hate to say this because it's very disparaging to myself. She was sort of the opposite of me. She didn't mix it up. She was there for so many decades, and she literally never made a mistake. If you think about it, I mean, everyone was making mistakes around her, but she never made a mistake. Rafe, clearly Trump admires the British royal family, a huge fan, a sweet memory of Queen Elizabeth. And I think a good reminder, considering everything that's happened with Prince Andrew, that her leadership did provide a lot of stability globally.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, that contrast and comparison explains very well, I think, why we in Britain are lucky to have a non-partisan or apolitical head of state who is diplomatic. When you have an elected head of state, by their very nature, they're going to be political and have their friends and foes. But we never got an insight actually into who the Queen's favorites were. I mean, unofficially, we believe Ronald Reagan was indeed her favorite president. They'd shared a love of horse riding together. She was charmed by him very much. Also, Eisenhower, probably her second favorite president. Very, very deep, warm and affection that they had there as well. But you never got to know that. And that was the beauty of the Queen and the monarch. She never put a foot wrong. She was always able to actually try to heal relationships, particularly as head of the Commonwealth. If there were countries within the Commonwealth that had an issue, she could have the ear of both prime ministers in whichever Commonwealth countries they were. A very useful person. And again, the monarchy itself, very useful. It's at times like these when the Anglo-American relationship is in rocky waters. This is the most trouble in my lifetime for the special relationship because of Keir Starmer's failure to support Trump over Iran. Think of that what you will. But you can see here, had we not had a monarchy, Britain would be in a much worse place. Trump still has great affection for Britain because of the institution of the monarchy, and he's looking forward to a double whammy, not only for the King and Queen to come over, but also for the Prince and Princess of Wales to come over in June for the World Cup.
So exciting. Charles, have you ever seen a president in your lifetime that admires the British royal family as much as President Trump does? He really seems to have a bit of a crush on this family.
He does have a crush on this family, and I suspect that Mr. Trump was being a little bit naughty when he asked the question, who's your favorite? I suspect he was maybe hoping that she'd say, well, of course, you are Mr. Trump. You are my favorite. And of course, what would happen next is it would be
We'd
leaked.
all know it.
we'd all know that he is the favorite of the royal family. And as Rafe says, she had two big favorites. I I would put Eisenhower as her favorite, to be perfectly honest. I mean, he was the wartime general who worked closely with her father, and he was the only president that came and stayed at Balmoral. And he wrote her a lovely letter after tasting the Queen's drop scones, which he dearly loved. And yes, Ronald Reagan was also a favorite, as he was with Margaret Thatcher. He was a cowboy, and she liked the guy and the cut of his jib and the fact that he rode horses, and he was a film star of his day. What was wrong with him? But I think Mr. Trump was trying it on, in some ways to get a bit of kudos. He loves the royal family, and he is sincerely hoping that the king will end up visiting in April. It's still up in the air. The king, I mean, I'm being told that the king and queen want to go to America, want to celebrate that anniversary, as does the prince and princess of Wales a little later in July.
It's a real contrast with Joe Biden, who, of course, wore his Irish heritage much more
Sure.
strongly than his English heritage. And it's been said, actually, that his mother, when she was staying in a hotel or a country house in Ireland, she slept on the floor when she was told that Queen Elizabeth had once slept in one of the beds, and she wanted to avoid the chance of sleeping in the same bed, and so slept on the floor. What a contrast between Biden and Trump.
Oh my gosh, I've repeated that story so many times. So thank you for bringing it up. Rafe, I want to ask you, because you talked about how you hadn't seen such friction between the special relationship before. How important is it to see King Charles in April? Or do you understand if the UK government says things in America are kind of chaotic right now, maybe we should pull back? Or does it not matter based on what the UK government needs from the States right now?
I think it's a lot more settled now than perhaps it was a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago, it did seem as if there was a good possibility that the royal visit wouldn't go ahead. It's still a possibility now, but I think saner minds are saying actually what we do need now is some oil to be poured over those stormy waters, and there's no one better to do it than the king. I think there's enough distance now politically between Starmer and Trump that the British public wouldn't find it odd if the king went over. I think personally that the judgment has been made that he will go, assuming his health is also up to it as well. It has to be said. And I think this is just something which will be it would be impossible to imagine that, given that his late mother was in America for the bicentenary in 1976, that he wouldn't be there in 2026, because Britain did have a slight role to play in those events.
Yeah, absolutely. And Charles, can I ask if you are hearing anything about the king's health? Are you hearing? I mean, every time I see him, he looks strong. He looks thrilled to be where he's at. We haven't seen him cancel a slew of events. So I'm feeling pretty good about him lately.
I think we have to go by the fact that he's still doing his daily duties, both public and private, looking at his papers and his boxes, the boxes he gets from the government and elsewhere. Um, I keep hearing that people are getting a bit jittery about his health, but there's no real signs that his health has deteriorated in any shape or form. In fact, the contrary. It looks to me that he's doing okay. When we've seen him out and about just recently, he's got a smile on his face. He's chatting away to people just like he would normally do, even in the early days of the cancer diagnosis. So look, everything is looking great. So far, as far as I can tell, he's still receiving treatment. Let's not forget that. He's not out of the woods yet, as the palace love to say.
Yeah, I know. It is concerning, but I've also developed a real admiration for his courage. And there's that never complain, never explain, keep calm and carry on example, like in real time, of just somebody that shuts up, puts up, shows up. And that's so rare today. And I love that we have an example in him like that, because too many people are willing to just throw in the towel. and or quit or pivot. And I just love that he continues to show up. I think that that's a really admirable quality. Your skincare might be more toxic than the food you eat. Just like choosing healthy food, we need to be careful about what we put on our body. I've become hyper aware of every product I use, reading labels, researching ingredients, realizing just how many toxic chemicals we let into our daily routine. Check the label on your moisturizer. It reads like a lab report. Swap your toxic moisturizer for Cow Guy's Tallow Balm. I actually got some and it's delicious. A natural hydrating balm with ingredients you can actually pronounce. It's safe and more effective than conventional alcohol or water-based lotions, and your skin will be glowing. Tallow Balm was used for generations before Big Pharma ruined skincare. Use it as a lotion on your hands, arms, legs, face, even your lips. You can use it for eczema, psoriasis, dry, or normal skin as an everyday moisturizer. Plus, it's American made and rancher owned in the great state of Texas. All the great things come from Texas. Hey, it's the best tallow balm you can find. Search up cowguys.com to get your tallow balm and get a free mini tallow balm. No special code needed. That's 3 or 4 months of moisturizer for just $34. Search cowguys.com to grab free tallow balm with your order. Thanks, guys. The Prince and Princess of Wales. What a fun visual yesterday. I don't know if they thought it was fun, but poor Catherine having to cling to her hat for dear life. She's never looked chicer, but the wind was knocking the sails out of both of them. They attended a historic occasion to witness the enthronement of the new Archbishop of Canterbury. The moment marks the first time in the 1400-year history of the Church of England that a woman has led the church. And the Prince of Wales was there representing his father, King Charles, at the event. Rafe, can you talk to me about how important this is? And we saw some articles circulating over the weekend about Prince William's quiet faith. And I think that's in association with this. Correct me if I'm wrong. And his relationship with this art, well, we expect for his relationship to be with this archbishop. Is that, am I on the right track there?
Yes, I think you are. So it's traditional for the heir to the throne to be present for the installation of a new archbishop. But as you point out, this is the first time a woman has held the role since the position was created in 597, so over 1400 years ago. So that's a great moment of change for the Church of England to have a woman there. And the other great moment of change could be that we actually have a much more secular monarch to come. A very big contrast with his father, who's deeply spiritual, and of course with his grandmother as well. But this, of course, is a role that comes with the additional title of Defender of the Faith and Supreme Governor of the Church of England. But I think certainly there has been so much speculation about the level of Prince William's belief or devotion to God that this would be the ideal time to do it. There was a breath of fresh air with a female archbishop. Well, this might be the time to actually add some clarity towards it. I think on the whole, people think and understand that this is a man who doesn't wear his faith on his sleeve, but who understands the importance of the role that he has and the importance of upholding the church. In this country, unlike the United States, we have an established church in England and an established church in Scotland. It's an official church of the country. But others are wondering, actually, is he perhaps just saying that he's a believer just because he has to say that to go with the role? Who knows? Edward VIII wasn't a very devout man, but was secular. His brother George VI was very, very devout. Unfortunately, of course, if you're a believer, the reality is, for the first time in history, in the last census of the British population, there are more atheists in the country than there are Christians. So, of course, I would say he's merely reflecting the reality on the ground.
Charles, I mean, that's incredible to imagine that. Well, I think, first of all, do you think that people are critical of that article? Have you seen people critical of that article about Prince William's faith? And second of all, well, answer that question for me first.
I haven't seen anybody be critical of Prince William. I do agree with Rafe, though. These are two different men, the Prince of Wales and King Charles. As Rafe says, the king himself is a devout follower of faith. William is very much the same as I think a large number of people in this country. Yes, they don't mind the religion, and yes, occasionally they'll go to church or whatever, but they're not. Uh, I don't mean to be disrespectful when I say this. They're not ramming it down your throat. He's quietly getting on with it. So he's not wearing his religion on his sleeve or in front of his heart, as the king does. Again, that is not meant as a criticism. This is two different men, come from different time zones and time levels. So I think Prince William is going to get on very, very well with this new Archbishop. You know, she's closer to his age for a start off. She's a woman, and I don't mean to be disrespectful in that
Well,
any way.
ladies love Prince William.
Oh yeah, yeah, but I think this is a new dynasty that's coming on. You know, I don't think William cared too much for the previous incumbent.
Well, it's my understanding that there was a disconnect because he understood he was close to Harry, which
That didn't help.
right. Okay.
That didn't help any relationship. But with this lady Sarah Mullally, she's going to do quite well, we think, and I think she's got the support of both the Prince of Wales and the Princess of Wales. And I have to say, what a hat she wore!
Oh my gosh, she looks so
The
good.
flying saucer hat.
I know.
It was amazing hat. I mean, you had to really look under the hat just to get a glimpse of her eyes. And of course, then the poor girl has to come out of the cathedral and end up,
In a wind
facing
tunnel.
that wind tunnel that's rocked us in this country over the last couple of days. But she did well keeping it on her head. I mean,
I
she's
know.
obviously used to it. I thought she was going to take off for a second, to be perfectly honest.
That's hilarious. Rafe, I want to ask you about you mentioned that some people might not believe him or some people might be skeptical, but there probably was a real evolution in 2024 when he was hit with not only cancer of his father, but of his wife. Sometimes you do some reflection, some searching, some reaching for comfort, and faith is, I think, a pretty mainstream source of relief for some people in that crisis.
Yeah, none of us can look into anybody else's soul and discern the degree to which they believe or not. He has said that he is a man of quiet faith, or his advisors have said he's a man of quiet faith who wants to uphold the church. We'll have to take him on that, and there's no reason to doubt him at all. But it does, I think, call into question because of this increasingly multicultural, multi-faith society, because he is much more secular, doesn't go to church every week and so forth. We don't know how Prince George is going to turn up. Will he also actually become much more secular even, or even an atheist? We don't know. But it calls into question the constitutional role of the monarch as the head of the Church of England, as the supreme governor of the church. Will it mean, though, that in the next reign, perhaps, or the reign after that, you will see that severing of the connection where you do not have an established church? And of course, we are the only country in the world that still has a Christian coronation ceremony, the only country where you have the crown put on the head by the Archbishop, the anointing with the holy oil. For the late Queen and for our current King, this was deemed to be an act of a sacrament, like becoming a priest with holy oil and all the rest of it. Will we see those elements go away at the next coronation? We know that Prince William wants to change the coronation service somehow. I think the Archbishop of Canterbury will definitely be there to crown, but we may see an elimination of much more of the religious aspects of it. And by the time we get to George, who knows how secular it might be.
Rafe, you'd said something months ago when we were on together, and it changed my mind, and I started repeating it. When we were, of course, 1,000 times the question of should King Charles step down over the Andrew stuff was thrown in our faces. And so you and I started championing the idea that if we believe what we're told, these people are chosen by God. And if that's the case, then absolutely he can't step down because he's been chosen. So, and I fought for that, if they start removing these elements of faith and religion, then I feel like it weakens that argument. Or am I just being sensitive?
Yes, I mean, for the record, I don't believe in the divine right of kings necessarily, but the hereditary principle, of course, is that you don't pick and choose who is the sovereign. There is a clear line of succession. And yes, in our concept of the monarchy, as a Christian monarchy, the oath that was taken by the king and by the queen, those were oaths taken for life. The Queen and the King would never have abdicated. It's not part of our constitution. There was an aberration with Edward VIII, the Duke of Windsor, but there really was this belief by our current king and by his late mother that the coronation ceremony was entering into a covenant between themselves and God and between the people and them. And if you do away with that, you change the whole nature of monarchy in this country and you get something which is very different. And I think if you strip away, as the great constitutional writer Walter Bagehot said, we mustn't let daylight in upon magic. And I think if you do away with the pomp and pageantry, then you will lose much that's left that we hold dear about the monarchy. As Charles de Gaulle said, prestige cannot survive without mystery, for one reveres little what one knows well.
Well, Charles and I are done. Bye, guys. Okay, well, as much as I would love to say that's the drop the mic moment, I do have to take us into Sussex territory, and I apologize. Charles, I know that this surprises you very little. A source tells Page Six that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's Montecito, California neighbors are over it. They are avoiding the Sussexes, says an area source. No one wants to be seen with them. It's not hate. It's just a growing awareness that they're takers with zero self-awareness. Everyone's exhausted by them. It's that blatant contrast of the Prince and Princess of Wales out there elevating all of these great causes, promoting all of these incredible charities, the homeless initiative. But for $3,000, you can meet Meghan Markle in Australia and share a room with a stranger. It just is startling how different these couples are, but one of the couples refuses to acknowledge it. They still want you to think that they're a Duke and Duchess. Are you surprised at all by these reports coming out of Montecito that neighbors aren't necessarily thrilled with Harry and Meghan's presence?
No, to be perfectly honest, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, they live in such a place where they can't just nip round to the next door neighbor and ask for a cup of sugar or do you have any milk? I've run out. It's
all right.
So there is no interaction really with the neighbors. The only time they would meet the neighbors if one of the neighbors has an event, a barbecue, and invites the family to that barbecue. Then they possibly will get together. But it's bashing Meghan and Harry time yet again. I mean, they're still going to get bashed all over the place.
That is that not a consequence of their own actions? I don't.
No. I'm not. Don't get me wrong, Kinsey. I'm not putting up a defense of the Sussexes. Everything that happens to them, they've brought upon themselves. The way they act, with the things that they do, with the criticism of the royal family, with everything they do. I mean, I know we're going to talk about Australia in a second, but this so-called royal trip to Australia as well. It's beginning to annoy people that they're still doing this. And let's not forget, they've arranged a trip to Australia, maybe at the same time as the King's visit to America. Now, protocol says, you don't organize a royal trip, if it's so-called a royal trip, at the same time or close to an official royal trip that's being made by a more senior royal. And they've done this before. It's not new that they've broken that protocol.
Yeah, I mean, read Tom Bower's new book, Betrayal. It's just in chronological order every time Harry and Meghan interrupt an official engagement for the Prince and Princess of Wales or King Charles. And he does it so clearly that it looks blatant and petty and very immature. Rafe, can I ask you? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Charles, please.
Say, when they do this, once is an error.
Yeah.
Twice is maybe they haven't learned from the first time. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times after that, they are taking the mick.
Right.
They really are doing it to try to upset the apple cart of either the Prince and Princess of Wales, which is the main object of their desire, or the King and Queen. Not so much
Right.
the King and Queen, but they do it. That's why they do it, just
Right.
to cause grief.
Absolutely. Rafe, let's talk about that Australian tour. Well, you know what? I think what annoys me the most about this story, Rafe, it's the title of the headline is Harry and Meghan condemn 35,000 strong petition demanding no taxpayers' cash spent on Australia trip. And the the thing that I thought was the most vulgar about this story was their reaction. I mean, never complain, never explain. There's a reason why the royal family does this. Their spokesperson reacts in such a hostile way. It's a moot point. The trip is being funded privately, so I'm not sure what this petition hopes to achieve. They said, of course, if you wanted to dive into the ridiculousness of this petition as an agenda for spreading misinformation, then one could equally hypothesize that there are approximately 26.5 million Australians who haven't signed it. I mean, again, like the word petty comes up, immature. Them responding, they responded to Tom Bower's book, elevating Tom Bower's book, giving it more oxygen. Them responding, I think, makes people like them less. When are they going to get the hint that the less they say, the more stabilized their brand is?
Or never. I think no, quite frankly, I think their skin is so thin, they are so easily triggered that it's just beyond them to actually stay silent, no matter what the consequences are. And you're quite right. It is better never to complain, never to explain. And it's impossible, isn't it, to imagine a member of the royal household, the PR team at Buckingham Palace or at Kensington Palace or whatever, coming out with a statement as you got from the Montecito duo over there. In fact, their spokesman said that it was a stupid assertion to make. Quite remarkable. And but of course, people are looking at this trip and saying, why on earth are you coming over to Australia? You are not royal. You are pseudo royals. This is a royal tour in all but name. And questions are being asked about the appropriateness of this visit to Australia now. There's a cost of living crisis, and yet there you go. Meghan is swanning around like a Z-list or Z-list celebrity, as you say in America, charging money for selfies, essentially, at this Sydney retreat where people are paying thousands of dollars and so forth. They clearly realize that they have no other role in life. There's nothing else that they can really do except for ape the monarchy. But they were supposed to have separated themselves from the monarchy. Australia still is very much close to Britain. The links between Australia and Britain are still very, very, very close and important. A lot of monarchists in Australia who resent very much the damage caused by Meghan, particularly to the royal family. And so a visit from her is as wanted as a huntsman spider visiting your kitchen in Australia, I imagine.
Oh, that's hilarious. Charles, you managed a lot of communication between you and Palace contacts as the royal editor for The Sun. Can you imagine receiving such a bitter response? Can you imagine such a tacky reaction to outreach?
Well, I can't imagine it with them, but I
Yeah.
can't imagine it with anyone else. I mean, all this guy needed to say was this trip is not going to be using any Australian taxpayers' money. End. He didn't have to say anything else. Oh, there's only 35,000, but there's 27 million people. He didn't have to say that, and that's a bit churlish. I mean, you touched on this. You touched on this 3-day event that Meghan is going to have in Sydney. This fireside chat with 300 people at a cost of £1,700 a person. I understand that the tickets for this event ain't going that well
No.
at that price. So it'll be interesting to see if it gets any better, or if it stays as low as I'm being told it is. And I can't qualify it, I can't check it or anything else. But it wouldn't surprise me if she cancels that part. To
Well,
be
and
perfectly
you have to submit, and this is wild to me. You have to submit a testimonial about
yeah,
your love for Meghan Markle before they will
yeah.
start the negotiations
I'll
about.
start. I'll start writing mine now, shall I?
It just seems ridiculous. I wish I could remember exactly um what Tom Bauer says in Betrayal, but there's a portion in his book where he talks about Meghan doing an event
Mm.
with media where they, pick they handpick every single person that's in the audience to ensure that they're not a Meghan Markle. Oh, it was the Hertz event where Meghan, I think it was one of the New York events where Meghan is receiving an award. Bauer says that they handpicked every single person in the audience to ensure that no one negative was there that might boo her or that might give her a hard time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how much money? We obviously know they need money. Otherwise, you're not making yourself accessible to people for $3,000. But how much money must you waste on each one of these little initiatives? Charles, that must get expensive being so hyper paranoid.
I mean, they spend money. They spend money like there's a bottomless pit that they've got, and we now know that this bottomless pit is slowly filling up with sludge. It's not getting any more money, and it's going to be interesting. You see, the last time they were in Australia on an actual proper royal tour representing the monarchy, they did quite well. Everybody came out to see them as they have done because in those days, everybody thought they were the greatest thing since sliced bread. They were the new hope for the monarchy and everything else. I think they're going to be in for a hell of a shock on this trip if it still goes ahead, to see the reaction of people. They talk about it's only 35,000, but that's 35,000 people who've bothered, to put their names to a petition or some sort of document. And I don't recollect ever seeing anything like that again for any other member of the royal family going to Australia. Australians love the monarchy. They love the royal family. They enjoy seeing them. And when they get a chance, because it's so far away, when they get a chance to see them, they turn out in their droves. Will they turn out in their droves for Harry and Meghan? I'm not so sure.
Yeah,
Well,
Rafe.
we've said for a long time, of course, that one of the reasons that this issue of security in the UK was a very convenient smokescreen for Meghan not to return to the UK, and that,
True.
of course, the reason she didn't want to come was the fear of being booed, and she would be mortified to be booed. Well, there's not that much difference between the Australians and the Brits when it comes to that sort of thing. If anything, the Australians are usually rather more vocal than the Brits are, who are far more reserved. So we'll all be watching with eager anticipation to see what reception she gets from the very frank and candid Australians.
That is so true. All right. Well, you're going to have to watch this space because we're going to continue to cover that trip here. Agree with us, disagree with us. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend, Charles Ray. Such a blessing to see you. Rafe Heydel-Mankoo and that snazzy bow tie. The next time I see you, I better be seeing you in a bow tie in real life so we can get a cute picture. Thank you so much for being here as well. We can't wait to see you again very soon. Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much.